Azerbaijan's new checkpoint in the Lachin corridor, just by the border with Armenia, has left 4 Armenian villages, Lisagor, Yeghtsahogh, Shen and Hin Shen, completely cut off from the outside world. The Lachin corridor is a 5-kilometer strip of land that contains the only overland route between Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. Since the end of the 2020 war, it has been under the control of Russian peacekeepers. Last December, self-styled Azerbaijani environmental activists began blocking the road near the city of Shushi, prompting a humanitarian crisis in Nagorno-Karabakh, with shortages of food, medicine, and disruptions to the supplies of gas and electricity quickly becoming commonplace. But since Hin Shen, Lisagor, Shen and Yeghtsahogh are located along the Lachin corridor before the roadblock, the residents of those 4 villages were still able to travel to Armenia, even though they were cut off from the rest of Nagorno-Karabakh. But last month, after Azerbaijani border guards moved to set up a checkpoint in the corridor near the border with Armenia, the 4 villages' residents were cut off from Armenia on one end and Karabakh on the other end. At the moment, they are left in total isolation. ＳivilNet's Artsakh team spoke by phone to the residents of Shen, one of the 4 double-blockaded villages. Samvel Tavadyan, a teacher of the local school, said that food stocks are almost exhausted, and flour, oil, and other basic items are urgently needed. Tavadyan added that their access to ATMs and banks, and therefore cash, has also been cut off due to the blockade. Farmers in the surrounded villages cannot graze their animals, and beekeepers are also facing problems. Supplies needed for farming are becoming scarce. According to the teacher, however, the biggest problem remains the accessibility to medical care. For instance, Tavadyan said one child recently broke his hand, and though a cast was applied, no X-ray could be performed. Since the checkpoint was set up, the Russian peacekeepers have continued mediating the transfer of humanitarian aid through the Lachin corridor to Nagorno-Karabakh. But even though the route passes directly through the 4 villages, food and medicine are not being supplied to those communities. Grisha Hovanesyan, the head of the Shushi region, told ＳivilNet that it has been a week since the issue was presented to the government in Nagorno-Karabakh. They say today, tomorrow, but the issue has not been resolved. The Azerbaijanis have also cut off the water supply to these communities, Hovanesyan said. Earlier this month, Karabakh President Artsakh instructed his Security Council to negotiate with the Russian peacekeepers to ensure the safety of the 4 villages that are now under a double blockade. Last week, Karabakh State Minister Gurgen Nersisyan announced that 1 truckload of food, medicine and other basic goods were transported to the 4 villages by Russian peacekeepers. Nersisyan added, however, that the humanitarian convoys carried out by the Russian peacekeeping troops are very limited in volume. Karabakh authorities are continuing to raise the alarm about these 4 communities under double blockade and completely cut off from Armenia and the rest of Nagorno-Karabakh.